Hi, I'm Dolly Vasta, and welcome back once again to the 25th year of Dolly's World. Time has gone so fast. And speaking of time, that's kind of where our show is going today. I have a wonderful set of guests for you, and it's going to be mystifying. Sometimes you might be a little dubious, but I think by the end of the show, you're going to be totally entertained, mystified, and maybe even a believer, because our show is on the paranormal. And I'd like to introduce my guests to you. So on my far right is Karen Timber. She is founder of the New Jersey Ghost Organization. I have this urge, Karen, to go, ooh, but I won't do it. We're on camera. And to my near right is a very special lady who I just met like 4 minutes ago myself. Her name is Jane Dougherty. She's considered one of the top 10 psychics in the country. I can't really wait to talk to her. And she's got a marvelous new book out, which I shall be discussing with her in time. So let's get to the guests. Karen, we'll get right to it. Now, we spoke earlier, and you told me you always had an interest in the paranormal.
That's correct.
And you decided rather to start an organization. How did you go about it? I mean, did you write a note that's saying, hey, all ghost lovers, you know what I mean? What did you do?
Well, I did a little bit of research on the internet to see what kind of groups were out there, and we found a couple, stumbled upon a few, and I says, you know what? Actually, it was my dad that said, you know, start your own. He says, he knows me probably better than anybody. Start your own. So that's what we did. I started my own, and we're here 4 years later, almost 4 years later, and we're doing what everybody else is doing out there. And
I understand that your group has become a very important group, and you get a lot of calls for ghost busting.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, you know, when you say ghost busting to me, I have an image of the Ghostbusters.
The proton packs.
Yeah, with all the packs on, you know. But you do use electronic equipment.
We do use scientific equipment. We use EMF detectors, which are electromagnetic field detectors. They say spirits will interrupt electromagnetism, and it's our job to watch the machine and just see where that interruption is, and then photograph it, you know, and see what comes up on it.
Now, while we're on that subject, because you segued beautifully for me, by the way, I've often wondered, what is the difference between a ghost, a spirit, and a soul? And Jane, you can jump in on this too.
Well, every living being functions at a bioelectric cycle of about 60 hertz. And that enables our heart, our brain, and our central nervous system. That's what happens. 2/3 of our life is, I would say, mind and spirit. The other third is physical being. And what happens is, medically, the first law of thermodynamics states that energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed.
So you're saying
that's what it is. It's energy.
When someone passes away, is that the spirit?
Their energy is left behind.
Right.
The difference between a spirit and a ghost is that spirits are capable of a full existence on the other side, which would be the next dimension. And they can communicate with us, they can interact with us. A ghost can't. A ghost is like a leftover memory, I guess you would call it. It usually happens with people that die very traumatically or tragically, unexpected, and that energy is left behind. So we're right back to energy again, but in a different form for ghosts. What happens with a ghost is, a spirit is just like you or I, it's just that they're operating on the other side. The ghost is a leftover energy. It's a memory is what it is. It's like a movie being played over and over again. It's what we equate to a residual haunting. Whereas if the atmospheric conditions are just right, that energy is recharged, and that's why we're able to see them. But we see them doing the same repetitious thing that they were doing all along, either at the time of their death or just the type of life that they led. You know, say they were a dentist or something, and you see them, working on somebody in a chair over and over again, or something like that. A lot of times that happens with battlefields. Battlefields are the single most traumatic place that a spirit can rest in, and you'll see, people say, we saw soldiers marching on the field, in a line. Well, that would be a residual. That wouldn't be a spirit where they're interacting with you. The ghost has no idea most of the time that they're even dead.
Now,
Go ahead.
I have a different view of it because
Okay,
I've been
I
in the
was just
field.
going to switch over to
Been in
you.
the field for over 25 years, and when I began, we only called them ghosts at the time. And later on, the word spirit came in. So I used to make the distinction that I refer to a ghost as something that's haunting, which could be residual or could be a ghost with a consciousness. Spirit I've often referred to as the term would be your loved ones. That's how I made the distinction in the beginning. But, from 25 years ago, we only called it ghosts, and spirits probably have been maybe the past 15 that term has become popular.
Are any of them connected with the soul?
Well, I would think that the soul is certainly part of the energy, part of the spirit essence. Good question and how to make that distinction, because my understanding is your mind is a part of you that lives on. Mm-hmm. And that part becomes part of the soul, because when you get to the other side, you have all your memories, and the only difference is you don't have your physical body. But you still can think, you still have your memories, and you still can see, hear.
Well, we were talking about the ghosts being residual and never getting out. And to me, that's a little sad because they're stuck. Is there a possibility that a soul ever can become a spirit and leave?
Yes, I've. In the case of your residual hauntings, it's a little bit difficult to reach that as far as being able to move it on. But if it has any sort of consciousness, you can. And I've done that in seances. I've done that in ghost investigations, where you try to make them understand where they are if they're in confusion, and to move them forward to the other side.
What about this sixth sense that is supposed to take over? Does everyone have it?
Absolutely.
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 Can anyone be trained to be a psychic?
Absolutely, because I'm living proof of that. I was not born an open psychic. I actually developed it, sought to develop it to prove or disprove whether this was real or not. And I'm living proof. I'm totally convinced it's something we all have. We're born with it. Young children. In fact, past life research is all done on children that are 3 years and younger. So they have the natural ability, but then it gets stopped once we get to school. That imagination ends, and we don't foster it.
True, because kids, or most of them, I know I did, had an imaginary playmate.
Me too.
Oh, you think? Oh, well. And then after a while, you're told there's no one there.
Exactly.
You're brainwashed. Is literally
Society
what you are.
dictates, yeah.
And I think that, I also think that an awful lot of creativity is wiped out of small children at a certain time.
Oh, yeah.
And more so now, because everything is so technical.
And there's so much pressure on the kids today.
Okay, another question. This is something that I thought of. Are there many men psychics?
I think you have more female psychics than
Well,
men.
that's what we were talking about, and I said I'd lay odds that there's more
Although
women.
I have found throughout the years, from when I'm doing a course in psychic development or someone coming for a reading, I've noticed a change. That 20 years ago, maybe I'd have one man in a year. Now you see there's an increase. I'd say there's probably 10% or 20% there's much more of an increase. So there's an interest.
Well, don't you feel that maybe it's because women don't get themselves boxed in too much mentally? They allow themselves, when you're raising kids and you have to think of creative things all the time, even to run a home, you have to have creativity.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to think out of the box.
Oh, I agree with you.
And so your mind is more receptive to a sixth sense. And I mean, you know immediately, you don't have to hear your kids come in. You know they're there.
Exactly.
You know where they've put their
mother's
books in the
intuition,
wrong.
yeah.
It's mother's intuition, but that's also part of that sense, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I think that men have it in the creative part, and they do use it, but they don't call it intuition or sixth sense.
God forbid.
Some of your greatest inventions, some of your most successful businessmen have followed their gut, have followed their intuition. Some will admit it and some won't. That's a natural ability there.
Well, they say in place training, after a number of years, you have an intuition about whether somebody is lying. Mothers can tell that instantly.
And we have eyes in the back of our head.
but that they've been trained to spot lying, odd movements of the eyes or the hands or whatever. But their sixth sense has been trained, not that they admit it, I think that their sixth sense has been trained to see something going on in the street and know that it's wrong.
I think some of the men that are most trained and don't realize it, that are using their sixth sense almost every day, police officers and detectives.
Yeah.
I think they really use it without realizing. It's just the hunches they get and what they follow. That's a sixth sense.
Do you think maybe they're afraid that it's part of their feminine side?
They're afraid to admit that it's intuition. You know, they want to think of it's just the way they are, but not in that terms. Yes.
Okay, then, let's suppose that you've gotten a call. I've called you and I've said, I think my house is haunted. I want you to come, and the two of you come. Take me through it. What do you do?
Well, what we do is we'll come and do a walkthrough. That's the first thing. Well, we'll ask you some questions over the phone and say, well, why do you think, you feel that your house is haunted? We'll come out, we'll do a walkthrough. Usually what we do is take a series of photographs and see if anything shows up on the photographs immediately. After that, we'll ask you a series of questions, find out what areas you're experiencing in. It could be in more than one area, it could be in the same area, and try to distinguish that. Then what we'll do is we'll make an appointment to come back, and we will bring our equipment in, bring our team in, and depending upon how large the location is, it would depend upon how many team members come with us. But we have people that do cameras, still cameras, video cameras, and then you have all our small equipment, recording devices, things like that. We run on a quad system with infrared, so that's a pretty big setup to set that up. And we usually come with a psychic. We like to work with a psychic. And some groups do, some groups don't. We happen to prefer it. And we think it adds a lot to what we're doing.
So, and I'm not trying to poke fun of anything now. I'm trying to get a picture so that our audience can get the same picture in their mind. Do you turn out the lights? Do you just stand in the house till you get a feeling, Jane? Do you walk through the house and walk through each room?
I walk through the house and I walk through each room. Now, I have a very unusual and strange reaction to spirit energy. When I am near a spirit, my stomach will actually enlarge like I'm 9 months pregnant. I'm a heavy woman, but you will see that. And so I'll walk around the perimeter of the room and I wait until my stomach reacts. Once that stomach reacts, I know I have a ghost there, and I will then get into my psychic mode to determine who it is. I'll also try to follow the path of the spirit. Based on my stomach, I'll locate where a lot of the activity is, or where the ghost hangs out, the spirit hangs out, so to speak.
And we photograph it. It comes on photographs. We just did a place down in Englishtown, and it was a historic building, and she actually went into the one room and followed the path, and sure enough, on camera, we got the orbs on camera wherever she was.
Now, an orb is a what?
An orb it's a bright, equated to like a ping pong ball being thrown across your screen. It's usually bright white. It's self-luminous. It comes, sometimes they're a little more transparent with us. Depends how they're photographed, what the lighting conditions are, things like that, what it's actually picking up, where you're picking it up in a space. But it's just the most common form. It's a very concentrated form of energy is what it is. And people say, oh, well, you know, that's the ghost. It's very controversial because people feel it's just the energy that's associated with the spirit and that the spirit could be nearby. It's not necessarily the orb itself. But we have photographed faces inside the orbs. So
That's what I was going to ask,
it is very controversial.
Have you ever found out, that this interferes with someone's religion? I know that sounds like a strange question to ask.
I think people have problems with it is based on their religion. I'm Catholic, and kind of interesting that I actually, in my book, there's a section where I actually read a Catholic priest. So it depends upon who it is as far as what their view is. I actually had my own parish priest tell me that he felt this is where I belonged in helping people in this way because someone has to do it. So it depends. It depends. Yet, I mean, you look at the Bible and the word prophet is used throughout the Bible.
That's true.
So, you know, people think of it as a being against religion. I think it's a personal view. I don't feel that way.
Well, I kind of, from what I understand of it, I kind of think that it follows along with spiritual beliefs, if you really think about it.
Yes, there's something that I feel as a result of developing the ability and following it. I was always a very religious person and, you know, have witnessed miracles. What I personally feel is that this was a tool that God gave to all of us in order for us to have a better life, to pay attention. Think of it. You say a prayer, how do you know your prayers are getting answered? Unless there's a miracle right in front of you.
Right.
But how many more prayers could be answered if it may be that it comes in steps, and when you pay attention to that, it actually leads you to the answer to your prayer. So I see it as a tool God gave to all of us.
Do you believe that, and I have read this also, that spirits are all around us wherever we are?
I think so.
I believe that they can be around us. They could be right there in the dimension right here, right now. But I think...
I certainly hope so. I could use help.
But I think we can't always see them. But I do believe that they are around us, absolutely.
You get feelings.
Yes.
Does the hair ever go up on the back of your neck?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about it.
We've had situations where we did a prison in South Jersey, and the hair will actually stand up on your arms or the back of your neck. I've had that in many places, you know, and my psychic ability isn't developed, you know, by any means, but I have experienced enough to know that there is something more to it out there. I mean, we tend to be a little skeptical, you know, I mean, this is what we enjoy doing, but we do tend to be a little skeptical, and we are very critical of, you know, the evidence that we're putting forth. So we look at it from a lot of different angles, and we take into account a lot of things, and especially the psychic's perception of it, the impressions that the psychic gets. So we put everything together and look at it. But yeah, we've been in situations where I've been poked, you know, there was nobody there. We just had something at the theater before you did the post walkthrough at the theater. I was standing, the chairs were about maybe a little further apart than yours is from mine, and I was standing in the middle of it, and I was actually, my leg was touched. And I looked. The first thing I did was look around. And I knew where all my cameramen were. And I
Yeah.
even said it. It's probably on videotape somewhere that, who just bumped into me? And it was like, not me, not me. And they're all, they're all really far away from me. But, you experience things like that. And, it kind of makes you
Did it
stop
bother
and think a
you?
little
Did
bit.
it scare you, or did it make you feel good?
Neither. It doesn't scare me, that's number one. And most of the people in our group are females, and we're not easily scared. It didn't make me feel good either. I mean, it makes me feel good in the sense that we want to capture it on film. We want to be able to show the public at large that, it does really exist, and it does. People just don't, they don't want to admit to it, oh, it was just my imagination or something like that. And it is in a way, but for a creative person
But
like
it's
that
helped
to get
along.
something, it helps us along. It helps us along greatly.
There's been a real increase over the years from when I began. You'd only get a few calls. Now there are more and more people accepting it, recognizing it, and I find, I think there's a rule on the other side as far as my own psychic ability and what I've seen over the years, is that like our loved ones, there's more evidence now of people encountering our loved ones, and I think it's because of our openness towards it, the change. Because on the other side, there is a rule. They can't come around you if you're frightened by them. So now that there's an openness, there's more and more people experiencing encounters with their loved ones also.
Do you have an experience, Jane, that maybe stands out really strong in your memory of a psychic experience?
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you one that is very strong, 9/11. When I was on WCTC, Ted Efo asked me about the USS Cole, if it was going to be bombed again. And I said, no. I says, but the terrorists are here in New York City, in Washington, D.C., and they're going to attack. He gasped. We didn't go any further with it. What happened is I did a reading for a woman. She had a job offer, and she was out of a job for nearly a year, and the job offer was in New York City. And I had a very uncomfortable feeling, and when she told me the name of the company, I said to her, don't take it.
Solomon Brothers.
No, it was Cantor Fitzgerald. I said I felt the company was going to collapse, not understanding fully. But that sticks out because the next day she called me and thanked me for saving her life because she never took the job.
Well, both my son and my daughter-in-law work down in that area of the city. And I know Rick often says that when he's walking through the station down there, he said you could really almost swear that you feel things around you. And he said it's, in a way, it's a little, it freaks him out, as he said, because you don't know what it is.
It's hallowed ground now.
It certainly is. It certainly is. That's, how did you feel, though, when that happened?
Oh, I was devastated because I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning with a horrible nightmare. And I saw a building, I saw water, I saw people running, and what really got me is I saw bits and pieces of window pane embedded in flesh. And I jumped up, paced the floors, because I knew something was going to happen, but I couldn't get quiet enough to meditate. And then the morning, my girlfriend called me to say, the plane had gone through the building, and I says, oh God, it's a terrorist attack. She's arguing with me. And then when she realized I was saying it psychically, I says, no, psychically, this is what I feel. I've been there. I think it's a very overwhelming feeling because you can feel the spirits. There's no question about it. And because you've had a shocking tragedy, so there would be trapped spirits there, not understanding where they are. And I've had some in seances, I've had loved ones come through of people, who died in 9/11. So it's a very sobering experience and, very heavy experience.
When you go through these things mentally, do they really wear you out?
If I allow my emotions to take place, and when I first began doing readings and doing this, yes, I was drained emotionally. I would just hold on to it for a week. and then I learned how to let go of it so that I do what I do without allowing the emotions to hurt me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Karen, you were telling us before, and it's kind of a funny story, but of an experience that you had with supposedly your dog, although it turned out it wasn't your dog. Yeah.
That's why I have a team.
Yeah. So, well, okay. Tell me the story of the cat.
This probably happens to everyday people, and they just don't realize it. But I was in the shower, and you get the feeling that like the pet maybe pushed the door open, and my daughter's dog will actually come in the bathroom, and he'll sit down on the towel in front of the shower on the floor. And I actually thought that that's what happened, and I had actually seen his shadow, or a shadow, of an animal run across the, not really run across, but move across the shower curtain. And, I was calling for the dog. I said, you're a good boy, and I actually thought that he would, usually what happens is he gets up on his front paws and he'll look in the shower and just see where you are.
Try and shorten this. We're
see
running
where you're at. Okay. So anyway, so what happened was I looked out the shower curtain and the door was closed shut. There was no dog in the room. And what actually had happened was our cat had passed away back in November, and that was her route to the litter box. Her litter box was at the end where the shower was, and I said it had to be. I didn't get any other feeling, but it's just you see something out of the corner of your eye, and that's it a lot of times.
Well, Jane, just before we go, we've got 1 minute, and I can't believe that we only have 1 minute left. This is like whoosh. This is your second book, from what I understand, Awakening the Mystic Gift. And is this about awakening the gift in your own self?
Yes. It's my story and how I opened it up. So you're learning and experiencing it as you read it, everything that I went through. And it tends to start to open people up. I know the chapter on dreams seems to trigger people's own experiences.
Well, I hope people will get it, come to the library, will buy it, read it. And I'm afraid I have to tie up the show right here. And it really disturbs me because I really had about 40,000 other questions, not maybe 40,000, but maybe 40 questions left. I hope all of you were as fascinated as I was. It's been wonderful. And you can join this ghost organization if you really want to, because we'll float under it your internet.
Our website,
Your website, excuse me.
We're always looking for good people.
I'm so internet brilliant. Anyway, to all of you out there, thanks for coming back for our 25th year. I'll see you all next month, and in the meantime,